This one is for all the homies that come back and watch every single video to the last second. Okay, so today we're doing an oil change on this Scion TC, and what better way to grow a car channel than to start by doing an oil change. So this should be pretty straightforward, but there's like something that's really annoying about changing the oil on modern Toyotas, so I'm going to point that out to you guys, but definitely stay tuned because why else would I clickbait you here? Alright, so to start off this install, we're just going to have to take this little oil cap right here. You can tell it's the oil cap because it says engine freaking oil on the top of it, and we're just going to loosen that up. There we go. Then you're just going to take this guy and throw it at your alcoholic stepdad. The next step is of course to drain the oil. So you're gonna want to just lay down on the ground for a second and climb up under the car, and you're gonna see a big thing on the bottom of the engine, and that's gonna be your oil pan. And as you can see right there, that's the drain plug. Now obviously this is way different on many cars, but this is a Toyota, so that's what this one looks like. On my car it looks way cooler because it's a Mustang, but you know, you can't win them all. Anyway, you're gonna wanna loosen this bolt, and before you do, make sure that you put a drain pan on the ground because you don't wanna spill oil all over the ground. That's definitely not the move. So we're gonna go get a drain pan. All right, here we go. So you just wanna take this guy and just frisbee it down under there. It's like 10 points right there. It was almost perfect. All right, so now that we have our drain pan down here, we're just gonna try every single socket in our set that might be the right size on this here plug until we figure out the right one. So we're gonna start off with a 13. Nope. Maybe a 15. Sounds like a hot dog down a hallway. 14. Yes! I told you guys it was a 14. So now you're just gonna wanna loosen that guy up until you get it to drip a little bit, and then you're gonna wanna pull it out quickly. I'll show you what I mean. So now we're just gonna take our ratchet, slip it on this bad boy, and then do our best to break it loose. Ah, there we go. So after you loosen it, pretty much turn it by hand. But this is the part you're gonna wanna be careful with because you don't wanna just spill oil all over yourself. It's definitely not the chill way to do it. Look at that. Didn't even get any on my fingers. I'm a freaking pro. Also, make sure the oil is spilling down into the drain pan. One thing you can do when your oil is draining like this is just take your finger and run it under it like that, and then feel the oil between your fingers. If it feels gritty at all, or if you feel any sort of metal shavings, that's not a very good sign. Luckily, this oil is pretty dark, but I don't feel any metal shavings, so that means that the oil's still doing its job. But if your car goes a really long time without an oil change, this is definitely something to look out for. So once the oil is just dripping like this, you can go ahead and just take your drain plug, pop it back in there. Make sure you don't cross thread it. And once you get it hand tight, just go ahead and take this guy and just give it a couple more little turns. You don't want to over tighten this, but just make sure it's just, you know, tight enough to where you feel comfortable with it. Don't tighten it too much, please. Just give it a little wipe down. Oh yeah, perfect. Perfect laddie. Okay, so we've reached the point where we need to change the oil filter, and this is the reason why changing the oil on a modern Toyota is kind of a pain. You have to order this specialty tool to get the oil filter off the car, and that's just kind of stupid. Like most other cars, you can just use any old filter wrench to get it off, but with this car, you have to have Toyota's little special thing, of course. So depending on your car, your filter might be in a different spot. In this car, it's right next to the oil pan. So what we're gonna do is just get our drain pan. We're gonna slide it underneath it. That way, if anything spills out of there, which will likely happen, oil doesn't get all over the ground. So before I take the filter housing off, I'm gonna use a ratchet with an extension to take this little drain thing out of here. That way we can drain the oil that's in the filter housing out of there. And that way we'll get a little bit less drip once we try to get the housing itself off the car. Alright, so then this little guy is going to come with the new filter, and you're basically going to just push this up into here, and it's going to allow the oil from the filter to drain out of there, supposedly. There we go. Oh man, freaking Toyotas. Alright, so after that's done draining, you're just going to want to pop that guy out of there. Then you're going to want to take your specialty filter wrench and get it on there, and then you're going to want to teach this filter a lesson. What the fuck? Okay, so update. the last person to change this oil was a complete jackass. Because this is on here so tight. Oh my God. I don't think I need that much lube. Is it even turning? Am I just warping it?
I don't know.
That's so much leverage.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of pounds of pressure on that freaking thing with that much. You might better check it. See what the hell's given. Because it's moving, but I don't think you're turning the...
Am I moving the engine? Yeah, it's loosening.
Oh, you got it. Good.
Holy shit. Stupid. Who did that? They should get fired. This can't happen to cars. It's loosening. Now I can ratchet it off. I'm gonna look at the threads on the thing before I put it back in there.
Yeah.
Cause that's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be a half a turn or a quarter to a half a turn past hand tight.
Yeah.
You have got to be shitting me.
I don't even think I loosened it.
Holy shit, Kaidan. I've never seen an extension break like that. That is freaking crazy.
I'm gonna see if it... No, it hasn't moved. Oh, great. These little teeth are supposed to go in that. I snapped one of them off. That's how tight it is. All right, boys, so here's the situation. This is my extension that I was using to try to get this filter off. This is the end of that extension. This filter was on here so tight that I had to use a cheater bar to try to get the filter off. The filter is still in the car, and this has broken off of the filter housing itself. The dealership that changed the oil on this last did such a horrific job of tightening this filter housing on here that we literally can't change the oil. So we're gonna go ahead and call them real quick and see what to do about this. Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to finish this oil change today because I can't get the filter housing off of it. So I just wanna briefly talk about the two different designs for oil filters and why I think that this kind is better. So the kind that this uses is a paper filter. So basically, you take the oil filter housing off and then you just replace the filter itself. And it comes with a couple O-rings that go around the plastic and make sure that it seals properly. So this is obviously good for like recycling. Obviously with these filters, they're a bit difficult to recycle because they're made of metal. Whereas these ones, you don't have to get a new housing, you only need the paper filter. So that's the benefit of that. But these filters, metal filters, are designed a little bit differently. So they have a little seal that goes around here. And basically that seal makes it so that nothing can get out of the filter. The oil still filters properly and nothing gets out. But the filter doesn't seize onto the car. Because if you take your car to a dealership and they freaking impact the filter housing onto the car, you just can't get it off. Like I just snapped an extension trying to change oil. Whereas if it had been this design filter, I probably would have been able to get it off by hand or close to by hand because these don't seize onto the car. And in my opinion, these are just a much better design filter than those filters, but what do I know? I'm just a kid in my driveway.
2,000 years later.
Alright guys, so it's been a little bit since I picked up the camera, and I'll be honest, after the failure that I had with the oil change on the Scion, it really just kind of struck my motivation a little bit. Then of course, it started raining, and it's been raining for the most part for the past like couple weeks, and since my windshield wipers are currently not working, it's been kind of hard to drive around and make car content. But I wanted to just tell you guys the rest of the story of what happened with the oil change. So we ended up just towing the car back to the dealership and being like, hey, you guys were the last ones to change the oil, and like this is what happened, we can't get the filter housing off there and it's broken now. And so they were going to charge us money to even look at the car, and we were like, no, we're suspecting that the filter housing is on there too tight because of something one of your techs did, in which case we need you guys to look at it. We're not going to pay you $150 just to put the car up on the lift and take a look. So we talked to the service manager, and he was nice enough, like he got it into the shop and everything. And so then what they did was they changed the oil on the car, and they replaced the filter housing because they found that it was broken, but then they still charged us money for the oil, the air filter that they put in there, which we didn't ask them for a new air filter, and the filter housing that they put on the car. So obviously the dealership has their rates and they have to charge money to keep the business going. Like obviously things in the world aren't free, but it was just such a frustrating experience because we didn't take it to the dealership to need them to change the oil for us. We had no other option but to take it back to them because the filter was on there so tight. And obviously like they have to charge money, but part of doing good business is accepting when you've messed something up. And I know for a fact that that dealership messed up the previous oil change. And that's why I always just advise people, like if you need an oil change, don't pay somebody somebody a ridiculous amount of money to do it for you. Go and get the materials and do it yourself. It's really not that difficult. Or if you really do want to pay somebody to do it, just find a local mechanic or somebody that's trustworthy. Don't go through a dealership, because the dealership pays their techs like minimal amount of money just to get the cars in and out of there, because they have such a high amount of cars coming in and out of there for all the warranty changes and stuff. They try to do things super efficiently. So if an oil filter housing accidentally gets cross-threaded or impacted onto the car because the techs are trying to go fast, it just leads to future problems, and it's not a good platform. So I highly recommend, if you're able, just change your oil yourself. You'll be glad you did it. You are the only person that can hold yourself responsible should anything like that happen. And a lot of times in life, it's easier to hold others responsible for your problems, but in the end, holding yourself accountable for the things that you do in life is going to bring you the most satisfaction. And that's my life tip for today. Change your own oil. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to leave a like down below. Also consider subscribing. Browse the channel for more car content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out and dream big.